What if you could stop cycling? What if you could identify the reason why you self sabotage and overcome it so you never go back? That's the premise of today's episode on the Bring the Mothers Home podcast. Now, you all know that I'm Joy Anderson, but this podcast is for you. If you're a purpose driven female entrepreneur who's passionate about building your own business and fulfilling your mission without sacrificing your family, then we invite you to join the Bring the Mothers Home movement, where we'll help you gain clarity, confidence, and courage to rise to your full potential and become who you were made to be. So, friends, I learned this principle about what I'm going to call power habits with a story that has repeated itself over 10 years. But the only thing that is different in this story is the one aha, the one breakthrough, the one download that I got at the end of this story. Because today we're going to be talking about if you feel like you are stuck in this cycle of every day is a Groundhog's Day. The night before you go to bed thinking, I'm going to change. I'm going to do better tomorrow. I'm going to not do those things that I don't want to do. And I'm going to do the things I know I should do. And you're stuck in this addictive behavior, this addictive, destructive cycle, right? Of like every day doing the thing you shouldn't do. And then you just keep cycling. You don't like it. You go into shame and guilt, all the things, right? So let me kind of back up for a second and explain where I was at with this. So, what I realized over the past 10 years was, after I had my son, I had gained a lot of weight during that pregnancy. It was my fifth pregnancy. And during that experience, like I had a lot of coping ways that I developed over that pregnancy that I realized were very unhealthy. I craved salt and sugar. Like so much so that like every lunch was hamburgers and fries, every dinner was milkshakes, and that was pretty much that entire pregnancy. Well, after I had him, I never dropped the weight because what had happened was for 9 months I had created behaviors in myself of what I ate every day. And of course, after the pregnancy is over, you still want to eat those things every day because they're delicious. And so I realized typically, after the baby weight would come off for every other pregnancy, well, this one never came off. And I fell into a really dark place. Postpartum depression is the only way that I can liken it to. It was right after I had him and it didn't go away. So I fell into this really dark place. And for the past 10 years, that's what I've been dealing with. Going through periods of like, okay, I can do this. I can, we always hit that high where we have we see the weight loss ad or we see the diet thing or we see we have this motivation come inside of us to do things differently, be healthy. And we go on that journey of like, okay, I'm going to do this, right? And the next day you set off and you eat healthier foods and you do all the things. And you can even sometimes last days, sometimes even weeks on these new processes, right? You're like, okay, I'm going to do this thing. But for whatever reason, and this is where the question mark comes in, for whatever reason, then at that point, we have you question like, but were things really that bad before? Do I, things haven't really changed in the past couple days or weeks. Maybe I'll just go back, right? Maybe things weren't that bad. And you forget the pit that you were in when you chose to climb out of it. It's kind of like with pregnancy. Like after 2 years, you kind of forget about the whole difficulties of pregnancy and birthing a baby. And 2 years, you're like, hey, want to do it again? Right? Want to have another kid? Because you kind of forget. Same thing goes with this. You forget the pit. You forget those moments of how long you'd been in bed, stuck in your room, not coming out. You forget the dark pit. You forget the dark depression. You forget how you felt on those foods that made you feel like crap. You forget how many times you've tried before, how hard it is to actually change, to shed all of these behaviors that have become so programmed in your psyche. You forget. And so you're like, it wasn't really that bad, and I'm kind of the same weight anyways, maybe I dropped a couple pounds, whatever, but like, it's not that different. So maybe, like, what's the point, right? And you go back to those foods. Or you find yourself like doing great, and all of a sudden something happens where life gets super stressful in your life, or you lose sleep for a couple days because you had a major project, or a trial comes into your life. And during those experiences, you don't know how to cope, you don't know how to deal. So you go back to the foods that you've had so many times before because they were the guaranteed way to make you feel better, to deal with stress, to deal with life. So you go back to the foods because you don't know any other way. And you think to yourself as you cycle over and over and over again. I mean, I don't even know how many times, 10 years, 365 days, like, and it wasn't every day, but it was absolutely probably every 3 to 4 weeks I would cycle. And after that, of breaking your promises to yourself over and over and over again, but more importantly, of being at this peak of like, I can do this, like, I believe in myself, and you have this peak motivation and this peak belief in yourself, to just days or hours or even weeks later being back at the pit. That that does something to you. And when you do it over and over and over, that really messes with you. I remember being at a place a couple months ago when I felt like I was losing my mind. How in the world could I keep going for another 40, 50 years of being at this peak where I'm going to do this thing and then failing over and over again? I believe you know what I'm talking about. Well, I was there recently, and I'll go into in a next podcast episode, in a future one, I'll be talking about Phoenix Fuel and how I stumbled upon this one type of eating that made me feel amazing, right? That in fact helped my son with a whole slew of autoimmune issues that he was dealing with. But I'm not there yet. But in this moment, we had crossed May 26th, right? May 26th, this big, let's do this, let's go transform. And immediately, I was set out in my head to how am I going to have this transformation? I know I need to go on a health journey. I've done many things in the past. I've done, you know, I've done keto, I've done weight loss drops, I've done paleo, I've done Whole30, all the things, right? Low carb, low fat, low protein, vegetarian, vegan, like you name it, I've done it, right? But in all of those are short-term fixes. Those are, hey, we're going to go on this one diet to go fix this problem real fast so that you can feel better about yourself real fast. And if I would know anything after 10 years, it's that doing anything for short-term quick fixes is the fastest way to failure. Because in nowhere in that are you programming yourself, are you reprogramming yourself to actually fix the root problem. We talked about this in a previous episode, right? Where we said, oh my goodness, all I'm doing is playing the whack-a-mole game of trying to solve the symptom, which is excess weight gain, of the root problem, which is I'm not dealing with life in a healthy way. I don't know how to cope. So in one of these times between May 26th and June 1st, again, very confused. I don't know what to call this thing. I don't know how to document my progress. I don't know which path to take. And again, I'm like, is it the short-term fix? Because I need to like transform, right? Like, so I need the fastest path possible. And so I'm in my head and I'm like, I don't know what to do. And of course, in that state of confusion and frustration and feeling like less than, because who am I to go on this big call to adventure journey? In that state, of course, what was I going to? I'm picking up my phone. Where is my phone? Here it is. Okay. Picking up my phone, opening up the DoorDash app. Anytime that I have a negative emotion, stressed, depressed, tired, bored, stuck. I'm working on a project. Oh, I just got all this, you feel it in the back of your spine and their back, and you just start feeling like, oh, like I can't break through. And you're like, and so you reach for the fix that's going to immediately lessen that feeling, whether that's scrolling on Facebook for you, scrolling on TikTok. That was a huge thing for me. Or whether it's opening up that DoorDash app, which has even sometimes worse outcomes. Although to be fair, scrolling on Facebook and scrolling on TikTok, I do believe are almost as equally damaging. And I'll explain that in a future episode. But so open up the DoorDash app immediately, just salivating on all the foods that I could choose, right? Just, oh my gosh, like, what's going to do it for me today, right? But of course, going back to my typical foods. But after ordering, for me, Kneaders, right? Kneaders pastries, you got the chocolate eclairs and the chocolate domes and the fruit tarts, and and I'll throw in a chicken noodle soup to make me feel a little bit better. And of course, that's got the bread and the, all the things with it. Probably a good $35-$40 worth of food on DoorDash. It gets delivered and I take it upstairs because that's where I work, on a bed, sitting on a bed with the laptop on a pillow in front of me so I can work. And there I am, I've got the laptop in front of me. I'm probably binge watching some show, and I've got all the Kneaders, takeout containers next to me of all these like plastic crinkly containers, and I'm all of a sudden, all that stress just melts away, right? The bad feelings go away, and it's just, this is so good. I just love this, right? I love being able to know exactly how to take away all of my negative feelings. But that's the truth, right? That's the truth, is that in that moment, it's like everything is right with the world. Like nothing can be wrong. You're not even having shame and guilt in those moments. You're just enjoying the food. It feels good, right? But after, when you got to throw away those takeout containers, put them into a garbage bag and then throw that garbage bag in the outside garbage so that, people don't know what you've been doing. That's when the shame and guilt starts coming in. That's when the, why can't I figure this out? Why do I have to keep doing this? What is wrong with me? Kind of thoughts come in. And can I really keep doing this for the rest of my life? Because I don't know any other way. And this is no way to live. And in that state, going back, okay, so the negative emotion is gone in the sense of, the stress is gone. Probably the creativity block is gone because now I'm fueled with sugar again, right? So the brain's like, okay, let's go. So I'm back to working. But pretty soon that sugar crash is coming down. And all of a sudden I'm left with brain fog. Probably 45 minutes later, 60 minutes later, just it's lights out. And I can feel it coming on. And so there I am, just like in this state of like, oh man. And you just stare at the computer screen for like probably a good 30 minutes and you can't again break through. So what do? You reach for your phone, you scroll Facebook, right? You open up a new tab, you scroll Facebook. And in those times, you like, there's nothing firing up here. There's nothing going on. You cannot think clearly. For the life of you, you can't finish your projects. There's nothing you can do short of probably like sleeping that is going to solve this at this state with your brain in that state. And so there I am. I'm just like, and I'm getting tired and tired. And so sometimes if I have to get a project done, I will open up that DoorDash app again and get something different this time, right? Or I will scroll Facebook long enough that like I finally, for after like a good hour and a half of scrolling Facebook, oh, okay, now that brain fog's starting to lift a little bit. Now I can start getting back. But what have you done? You've just scrambled everything in your brain. Oh my gosh, I'm talking about scrolling. Some people are going to come for me, but I'm super passionate about this. You scroll Facebook like 3 scrolls and you are down a rabbit hole and you don't even remember what you came on for the first place to do. And not even that, but 3 scrolls with Facebook or TikTok or any platform. And your brain is like rewiring itself to the hey, I need the instant gratification, I need those dopamine hits, I need the fast fix, I need the like give me more, not like, hey, I'm gonna go work on this project for 5 hours, right? And it fractures your brain. I mean, maybe not for you, but this is, if this is resonating with you, this is what happens to me, and I believe it happens to most people too. It fractures the way you think. That your thoughts are all everywhere, right? It leaves you more confused, more frustrated, more hungry, more bored, right? So, anyways, there I was in this state. But this time I'm like, I don't scroll Facebook. Like that was a commitment that I had made to myself before, that I'm not scrolling. And therefore, if I'm not, I already ate so much, like I'm so stuffed, I can't eat anymore. And if I'm not going to scroll Facebook, the only other solution to get rid of this brain fog is to go to sleep. So there I am, like at 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and boom, I'm out, right? So I'm upstairs in that room taking a food coma nap with, again, still the thoughts on my mind. How am I ever going to fully transform? How am I going to ever change? I had this great idea, and immediately I went back to cycling. And that's what was, again, the shame, the guilt, all those things as I went to sleep. Now I'll tell you what came to me the second I registered consciousness after I woke up. I'm telling you, the second. Not even known I was awake until this thought was in my head, and I'm fully awake at this point. The thought was this, and I'll tell you, this didn't come from me, because for 10 years I have been looking for something like this, looking for a solution, never finding it. And this is what came. Immediately upon registering consciousness, this thought of, what if food isn't just food to you, Joy? What if food has become the number one way for you to get rid of every negative emotion ever, so quickly, so efficiently, that you have chosen to go to food to meet your needs? Food is no longer just food. It doesn't just fuel your body. It meets so many of your needs, it has become an addiction for you. Then, therefore, what if you have been meeting your needs in this unhealthy way for so long, you don't know how to cope with life, you don't know how to deal with anything. So, of course, when you have that moment of saying, I'm going to go do this thing, I'm going to go on that, I'm going to go get the quick fix, I'm going to go lose the weight, and you go on that path, and you change the sugar for no sugar, and you change the Diet Coke for no Diet Coke, and you change the no exercise for exercise, and you go on that path, no wonder that just hours, days, or weeks later, when you have stress come into your body, negative emotions come into your body, trials come into your life, no wonder it doesn't work anymore. No wonder you go back to the foods that have helped you cope with life. Joy, you've had some really hard times in your life. Man, you had almost $400,000 of student loan debt. Holy cow, that was really stressful for you. No wonder you went to food in that way, because you didn't know any other way. Man, you had really hard times in your life. You went through a divorce. That was really hard for you. No wonder you went to food in that way at that time. You didn't know any better. Man, you've been through really hard times. You had a horrible depression come into your life. No wonder you went to food to cope with that. Over and over and over. All these events just starting to like go through my mind of like all the things I've gone through in the past. To understand, I didn't know any better. And my guess is you didn't either. You didn't know how to deal or cope with your life either. So you went to the one thing that would help keep you on this earth. And for that, we can thank the food for the past to keep us here. We can thank whatever coping mechanism we did in the past, even if it was unhealthy. We can say, thank you for helping me to stay on this earth, to get through that. But I believe there is a new thing that I'm learning right now that I can say, wait a second. If that didn't work in the past, where I would just, okay, well, I'm just going to go choose a different food, go do a different diet, go do this quick fix thing, because I wasn't actually meeting my needs at all at that point. Now I wasn't having the foods to meet my needs. Now my needs weren't being met at all. So no wonder when the trials, the emotions, all the things came in, I was in a very weak state, and those immediately took me out. So no wonder I went back to the food. Oh my gosh. Like laying down in the bed as I'm having this download come to me, I'm like, holy crap, I think I've figured it out. This is the thing I never knew before. And maybe I'd known it in some way before, but it never hit me like this before. And I said, wait a second. What if then, if food had met our needs for so long, and I'm thinking of Tony Robbins as he lists the 6 human needs, which I'll share in just a second. If they'd met the needs for so long, what if instead of just changing food, which of course I do believe that, eating a diet composed of sugar and gluten and all these things and is going to lead to brain fog and leave you in a state that's probably not very, conducive to healthy like brain patterns. Okay. Because I know how it feels. Like I can't just keep eating those foods because I need to work. Like I need to work, right? And if I don't work, my mission doesn't work. If I don't work, my business doesn't work. If I don't work, my family doesn't work. All these things, right? But it starts with me. So I'm like, what if then? Yes, of course there's a food element. Of course there is, right? I mean, if you are struggling with drinking alcohol to cope through life, if you're struggling with vaping or smoking to cope through life, if you're struggling with, mindless scrolling on Facebook or TikTok or any other platform to cope with life, or food to cope with life, we need to say that is not the excess weight gain, the brain fog, the scattered focus, the shame, the guilt. Those are symptoms of the problem. The problem is we're not coping with life in a healthy way because we're using these other things to meet our needs. So then, therefore, what if every day I could meet my needs in a healthy way first, every single day? Therefore, would the pull to food be as strong? Now, I firmly do believe that I've developed addictive tendencies over the past 10 years with, creating these, with programming myself and all the things. And so when I use the word addiction, when I use the word addictive, I'm serious about those words. Those are things that is how I felt toward food. Constantly like, where am I going to get well, if I go on vacation, like, what foods am I going to eat? How are they going to have like a kind of like store where I could buy like candy bars and stuff? Or, if I'm on a cruise, like, am I going to be choosing like all the cakes versus like all these other foods? How am I going to feel when I'm sitting down with Michael and eating those foods? Like, am I going to be going out when he's asleep and it's like 3 a.m. and I'm going to go find my chocolate cake on the, the little cruise ship? Like, I'm thinking about these things all the time, right? It's like consuming me. If anything is different, like if I'm going on a road trip, if I'm going to this Disneyland, like any place, how am I going to eat? Right? That's where my mind was before. And then, so when I say the word addicted or addictive or addiction, I 100% put me in that category of I was using a food, or it could be for you a substance or a behavior, to cope with life in such a way, programming myself for years to go to that food, substance, behavior, etc. for you, to go to that food to meet all my needs in such a quick, like efficient way. Why would I go do anything else if that was the fastest way for me to go meet my needs in like 30 minutes, right? Why would I ever go do anything else to meet my needs? That's how addictive it is. I think of smoking and I think of the things that, like, holy cow, of course it's so addictive because it meets your needs so efficiently, so quickly. It gets rid of those bad, like you're starting to feel stressed, go take a pull of your cigarette or whatever. Like, of course. It meets those needs so quickly. It gets rid of the emotions so quickly. That's what of a problem these things are. You go pull up Facebook, you could have been stressed, tired, depressed, bored, hungry, all the things. You pull up Facebook and you're scrolling, and like within seconds, you don't feel those emotions anymore until 30, 60, 90 minutes later when you're like, oh crap, I've been doing this a long time. So what if we could create a power habit every day that met even more of the needs? So if I was only meeting 3 of Tony Robbins' 6 human needs, which does create addiction, anytime you meet 3 or more of your needs with something, it will create an addiction. If I could create a power habit, though, instead of a destructive, addictive habit of what I was doing, if I could create a power habit that I felt previously in the other thing I was doing with food, it made me feel powerless. It made me feel helpless. It made me feel out of control. So if I created then a power habit, which made me feel in control, which would made me feel powerful, right? Which made me have a clear head, which made me cope with life in a healthy way. If I could create such a power habit to do every single day that met so many of my needs, could then I break that tie I had to food? Could then I break the addiction I had to food? This was the aha I had laying in bed with still those food containers still on the bed after the food coma nap, an aha that I had never had before. And so I said, oh my gosh, holy cow, I think this is it. And so I immediately thought of Tony Robbins' 6 human needs, of how food was meeting my needs. I'll go through that in a second. And then what kind of a habit could I create to meet even more than 3 needs? And in fact, what if it could hit all 6 human needs? Oh, dang. Now I would be meeting my needs in a healthy way. And that was like all I needed. I just needed hope that there was a solution out there that I had never done before that actually worked, and not just worked in the short-term fix way of like, yeah, of course you drop, if you only eat 400 calories a day, of course you're going to lose weight. Like, that's the most unhealthy thing ever. But that's what one of my mentors told me to do in the past. Take these magic weight loss drops and, that are going to help you, and just eat, XYZ foods, which was AKA literally 400 calories a day. No wonder I dropped 35 pounds. No wonder. And then guess what? What happened after the trials came, the tests came, the stress came, the fear came, all those emotions came back in. I hadn't dealt with those emotions in a healthy way before, other than to eat the exact same foods every single day. So I went immediately back to food. Do you see how we have to deal with the root? If you don't deal with the root, you will cycle for the rest of your life. So we have to deal with the root, which is, how are we meeting our needs? So let's talk about it. Here we go. So I call this power habits. Okay. How do we create a habit so strong that it can break your addiction to destructive habits you've created? A power habit so strong that it can meet all of your needs. A power habit so strong that you can feel full and actually finally fulfill your purpose, right? Actually fulfill your mission, actually go through life in a happy, healthy way. So before we get to the power habit, let's talk about those 6 human needs. Now, this comes from Tony Robbins, and he says there are 6 human needs that every person has. Now, this is also based on, as we know, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? But Tony kind of talks a little bit differently about them, and this kind of makes sense to my head. So maybe it'll make sense to you. So I'm going to talk about the 6, and I'm also going to talk about how food was helping me to meet those needs. Okay. And then I'm going to talk about the power habit I created that I do every single day to meet all 6 of my human needs immediately in a very efficient way. And you can use the exact same power habit. I'm going to tell you how to do that. Okay, here we go. So the very first human need that Tony Robbins says is certainty, right? The assurance that you can avoid pain and gain pleasure. So for me, did food provide certainty? Did food take away all those negative emotions and it give me all sorts of happiness? Yes, it did. Right? Food absolutely provided certainty. How about uncertainty and variety? Did DoorDash provide uncertainty and variety, the need for the unknown, the change, the new stimuli? Absolutely. You open up DoorDash app and you're like, "Ooh, your taste buds are immediately like your mouth salivating, right? It's so excited, right? All the different foods you can have, all the different tastes you can have. Your choice, any food, anytime, anywhere. Go to the gas station, go to Walmart. I literally took a picture. In fact, I'm going to show you this picture because I went to Walmart the other day and I had like gone and put like all my vegetables and fruit in my cart and whatever, and I was checking out. And I get to the checkout aisle, and I hadn't been in the grocery store for quite some time. I get to the checkout aisle, and I actually, because I'd been over in the vegetables and fruit aisle, right? And I get to the checkout lane, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what the heck has happened? But it's always been there. It's always been like that. I just never seen it like that. And I'm going to show you. And of course, if you're watching the video, you can see this, okay? I'm going to show you this image. I want you to go look at any checkout lane, of course, unless you're in like Whole Foods, which I'm sure doesn't look like this, but any checkout lane ever, and you're going to see it is row upon row, every end cap, every end of the aisle on that checkout lane is bright colors, sugar, treats, either sugar or salt. And it's bright colors. And it's all the same. It's like every treat and every chip and everything. It's like you look down that row and it was just like rows upon rows of all this junk. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't been in here in a while. Holy cow. Okay, back to wait, where are we at? Okay. So there we go. It's the need for the unknown, the change, the new stimuli. Okay, that was the second one. The third is significance, feeling unique, important, special, or needed. Did I feel significant? No, it didn't really meet that need for me. Number 4, connection or love, a strong feeling of closeness or union with someone or something. Ooh, did food provide? It said not just someone, but something. Did food provide a way that I felt connected or loved? Yeah, if you're feeling a deficit of love in your life, guess what? Food can fill that hole. So 3, now I've got 3. I've got certainty, uncertainty, and variety, and connection and love. Okay. Number 5, growth. An expansion of capacity, capability, or understanding. Food didn't really meet that need. Contribution is number 6, a sense of service and focus on helping, giving to, and supporting others. Food didn't really provide that either. But food met 3 of my 6 needs. But more importantly, it met those needs in such an efficient, quick way that I, of course, wasn't going to go anywhere else to go meet those needs. And I would say that number 1, that certainty, the assurance you can avoid pain and gain pleasure. If you are choosing a food, a substance, or a behavior to meet that need, and you have done it for so long, and it is such a quick, efficient way to meet that need, I'm going to ask you to ponder that. Because if it is an unhealthy way that you are meeting that need, that right there can clue you into that it's an incredibly addictive thing that you're doing. So right there, I'm like, okay, I've got those 3. So I'm like still laying in bed, pondering all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, I got those 3. Okay, but now how can I create that power habit that not only can meet the certainty, uncertainty, variety, and connection and love needs, not only those 3, but what if I could create a power habit so strong, it actually could meet all 6 of my needs and therefore would outweigh, like if we're talking about like the scales, it could outweigh, and therefore it would have a more of a pull, because of course your body wants to meet your needs and your brain wants to meet your needs. And guess what? You meet it in a healthy way and you do it in a way that it's like so powerful because it meets all 6 needs. That's more powerful than the way you've been meeting it in the past. It can be as powerful as that. And yes, it can even break addictions. And so I'm like, okay, I'm laying there. I'm like, okay, well, I do. And I'm like, what could I do? What could I do every day that is like not? And I'm like, well, you could go exercise, and that absolutely would meet certainty, and it would meet a lot of these things. But, there's a lot of resistance there about like, well, I got to go join the gym. I got to go do the thing. And every day I got to go exercise the thing that I haven't been doing ever, but I'm going to go do it now every single day. Is there something a little bit step down? I might go into that soon, but is there something a step down that is a little bit less like, it feels more light and easy to me? Is there something like that? And in that regard, I was like, oh, yeah. I remember that when I take walks, I felt really good. In fact, back in August 2022, I was listening to my favorite audiobook ever. It's also obviously in paperback form. And the audiobook is called Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It. And it's one of my favorite books. I think it is my favorite book ever. I'm trying to see if I can just quickly pull it up. Here it is on Audible. Let me just click it here. If you can see it. Okay, there we go. So I'll pull it up here so you guys can see what the cover art looks like. So Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It. Okay. And I remember back in August, I used to take these walks every morning. I would take my dog. I would take these walks and I would listen to this audiobook, Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It. And man, I felt amazing on those walks. It was hitting all the needs. I was like, okay, yes, I could obviously go repeat that process and go listen to that book. And so I'm going to give you two options, okay? I'm going to give you two ways that you can meet all 6 human needs, either with someone else like your spouse going on a walk or by yourself going on a walk, okay? So here we go. And I'm going to break them down each single one. Okay, certainty. How can we meet? And I call this a power walk. And every single one of you can do that. Or if I'm trying to think, if there's any limitations that you have about walking or things like that, you can still go outside, okay, to do this. Or you could figure out a different, figure out the component that doesn't work for you and like figure out how to replace that little component, okay? So Tony Robbins' 6 Human Needs. Number 1, certainty. How can we avoid pain and gain pleasure? It has been proven that if you go on a walk, you will feel better, okay? You will feel better. And so certainty. Number 1, go on a walk. Now, if you, for some reason, you can't go on a walk, go outside, right? Even being in the sun. There's a reason why we moved to Arizona. And I want all of y'all to move to Arizona. Like having sun 365 days out of the year is incredibly important to me and my mental health. So number 1, certainty. When I go outside, when I'm in the sun, or when I go on a walk, right? I feel better. Okay. So that's number 1, certainty. Number 2, uncertainty and variety. The need for the unknown, the change, the new stimuli. Now, going on a walk, do you think that you're going to look at nature? Do you think that there's all sorts of colors and trees and clouds and sounds? Oh yeah, right? That's going to meet the uncertainty variety need, right? Isn't it? And even if you can't go on a walk, you can still go outside and look at all the different things, right? So absolutely. Number 3, significance. Feeling unique, important, special, or needed. Now, in my case, when I go on a walk with Michael, my husband, we love to have talks together, right? Obviously during the walk, and we feel needed, special, like we have that connection that we're building, right? We feel the things that we're talking about are important. Now, if we come over on the other side, if you don't go on a walk with someone else, you can go on a walk with yourself, right? And in that case, I want you to listen to this audiobook, Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It, because that makes you feel special. It makes you feel like, oh my gosh, I am needed in this earth, right? I have something that I can offer to the world. Number 4, connection and love. A strong feeling of closeness or union with someone or something. If you go on a walk with someone else, of course you're going to feel that connection, aren't you? Whether it's your spouse, whether it's your child, whether it's a friend. If you go on your walk by yourself, you can feel a closeness or union with either yourself, as especially this book, Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It, especially that book, or with God, or with nature, right? You can feel this closeness. Okay? So number 5, growth. An expansion of capacity, capability, or understanding. If you go on a walk with someone else, you're going to be talking. You're going to be, but I would challenge you here in this conversation that you're going to have with these people is that you focus on conversations that might help you grow. You focus on challenging topics or things that are not challenging, that are going to like put you in a fight, not that, but like elevate your topics, right? What kind of things can you talk about that might help you grow? That's what I want you to think about. Not just like, hey, what are we doing this week? It's same old conversation, right? On the flip side, if you are going on a walk by yourself, what can you put into your brain as you listen to grow? Well, number one, this podcast, right? Of course, the Bring the Mothers Home podcast. Number two, this book, Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It. So either is actually a great option. Whether you go on your walks with that audiobook or you go on your walks with this podcast, either will suffice, because eventually you're going to run out of this book. Okay. Eventually you will. And you can grow even listening to that book, because it's going to show you how to love yourself. It's a beautiful book. And of course, this podcast will continue to help you grow as well. So even if you run out of that, you know exactly what you're going to be listening to every day, huh? Okay. Number 6, contribution, a sense of service and focus on helping, giving to, and supporting others. Now, here's what's beautiful. When you go on a walk with someone else, you can pour into them, can't you? You can feel like you're serving, you're sharing, you're helping them to feel better. You can pour into them. You can serve them. Now, what if in the case, though, they're helping you? What if they're supporting you? What if they're pouring into you and you're the one talking, right? In that case, you can take it one step further after your walk, and you can go share this with others. Why do you think I'm here creating a podcast right now? I can't keep this within myself. That is one of my two things that I are driven by. It's purpose, right? Purpose includes growth and contribution, because I have to grow in order for me to contribute to my mission. Okay, so purpose driven. That's why this podcast is Purpose Driven Female Entrepreneurs. It's because we have a purpose. And so we're constantly growing, but we have to give back. So I currently, obviously, am doing this, podcast to contribute, but also I've been posting on Facebook every single day. I've been posting about how I can, what's the one thing that I'm doing that day to get this mission out right. Or I'm talking to other people. I'm talking to Michael about the frameworks. I'm sending out emails. I'm talking to my members about the frameworks, right? I have to contribute. So every day, how can we help you contribute as well, right? If you're going with somebody, you can serve them. Or if they were serving you during that walk, right? And you weren't really pouring into them so much, that's okay. Every day is a little bit different. You can go think about, how can I serve someone else, right? And that doesn't have to be about the frameworks you talked about during your walk. It can be as easy as coming into your home and spending some time with your children, coming into your home, spending some time with someone else, et cetera, right? Or calling a friend, texting a friend. How do you serve others? If you're going on a walk by yourself, guess what? You can also take a little notepad, or you can write in your phone any notes you have. And then later after your walk, you can go share that with a child, a spouse, share it with someone on Facebook, make a Facebook post, right? Send out an email, talk to a friend, text a friend. You can contribute, right? Do you recognize right here what I have just given you is something so powerful? It's why I call it a power habit. Now, you can create your own power habit that makes sense to you. But while you do that, my urge to you, my ask to you is try out this power habit on. See how this power habit will serve you, because it is changing everything for me. Since, I had this idea of like, oh, wait a second. Oh my gosh, right? Everything started clicking in. We were talking days between May 26th and June 1st. June 1st is when I committed to this path, creating the Phoenix Journey, going on my Phoenix Journey. Like, it is within days. Everything started clicking, right? Now I'm taking a walk, and I told Michael, okay, this is what I just, thought. And I'm sharing this with him, and I'm doing that power walk. And it's lessening the tie that I have with food. Now, I hadn't committed yet. I committed on June 1st. But I hadn't committed yet, okay? But it was starting to lessen the tie, lessen the hold, starting to make me realize I can be in control. I can have power over my own things that I need to do. I can meet my needs in a healthy way. I know how to do that now. There are so many times when I felt like, do I need to go to therapy? Do I need to go talk to a counselor? Do I need to go da 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 da? Because I don't know how to cope with life, right? All I'm doing is cycling. This right here is better than any therapy session, my friends, because I'm telling you, this can change your life. This can save your life. This right here. I will be teaching you many more frameworks as we go along, but this is where it started. And so when we talk about the hero's journey, right? Because the Phoenix journey is based on the framework of the hero's journey, and we can map ourselves to this journey we're going to go on to achieve the goal, to transform into who we are made to be. We talked about we were in the ordinary world. We talked about how we had that call to adventure. We talked about how we felt immediately the refusal, the reluctance of the call. We talked about immediately how the next step was meeting the mentor. For me, this was the beginning of meeting the mentor. And for you, I believe as you've, created your big audacious goal, I'm one of your mentors in your corner. Now, I'm not your only mentor because I believe we have many mentors, not only God, but we bring mentors in from this earth as well. And I have many mentors in my life for many different things, but I can be one of the mentors in your life to help you on this path, to give you the framework to walk. And so as I had this, okay, power habit, this is something, right? This has got to be something because I've never once understood this to a level as I do right now. And for 10 years, I've never had this aha. I've never had this like, holy cow, this could be it. And not only that, this is a lifetime thing. This has nothing to do with 3 days, 6 weeks, 60 days, 90 days, whatever. I can do this every day of my life. Every day of my life. And it's a way to meet my needs in a healthy way. Holy cow. What could change in this world if we gave every woman in the world this, and every man too, quite frankly, but we gave them this power habit framework to show them, hey, if you're not meeting your needs right now, and some of you are like, but Joy, I don't have addictive, destructive habit. I don't have like a way that I'm meeting my needs in a negative way. Some of you might not even be meeting your needs in the way that you think you're actually meeting your needs. You might be saying, oh, Joy, I meet all my needs. Do you? And I'm going to share this real quick and then I'm going to close. We had an amazing woman come into our retreat, our Phoenix Journey 3-day retreat. And she said, Joy, I don't think I have a problem. I don't think I have one of these, things that you're talking about. I think I deal with life okay. And I said, okay, but let's make sure you're actually meeting all 6 of your needs. Now, you can't go into growth and contribution, says Tony, if you're not meeting your 4 core needs, which is certainty, uncertainty and variety, significance, connection, and love. You can never get to growth and contribution if those 4 aren't being met. So she had a goal of starting her business. She had a goal of pouring into children's lives, but she couldn't even get there because when we started talking about the 4 core needs, I said, is it certainty? And I uncertainty, variety. And then I hit these other 2. I said, is it significance? How are you feeling unique, important, special, or needed? And something changed in her eyes. And I said, is it connection or love? Is it a strong feeling of closeness or union with someone or something? And she, I could see something had happened when I hit those 2. And I said, let's go back to significance for a second. I said, how are you meeting the need of feeling unique, important, special, or needed? And she broke down. In front of me, she broke down and she just started, the tears pouring out. And you could see her shoulders hunched over. And she came into herself at that moment of realizing she was not meeting her need of significance. So how in the world could she ever go into growth and contribution? I said, how have you met that need in the past? And she said, I used to teach. I used to teach. I was a teacher. I love teaching. That's all I want to do was be a teacher. And I said, when was the last time you felt that? She said, years ago, because then I left teaching and I came home to be home with my child who she had just had a baby. And now that baby's about 2 years old. And for the past 2 years, she left her way of knowing how to meet the need of significance. And she went into this way of having her child and pouring into her child And while she could feel the significance of feeling unique, important, special, or needed with her child, she wasn't correlating to that. She said, all I want to do is teach. I just want to pour back into kids' lives, right? Yes, my baby, but they don't give much back at that age, right? She's like, I just want to teach. And she felt this block that she couldn't build her business. She didn't have any students to teach. And I said, you can teach right now. I said, go on Facebook Live. You don't need to have any students that are, paying you. I said, go on Facebook Live and go teach. I'm teaching right now. I can feel significance right now, right? By pouring into you. And she started to get the light back in her eyes because she had, in her head, basically taken this part of herself that she loved so much, but she couldn't do it because she correlated it to the only way I could do it is if I actually had students who were paying me. I said, go teach right now. And not right now because she was at the retreat, but she came back off the retreat and she did a Facebook Live and she taught for 30 minutes and her eyes were so lit up. And who knows whoever saw that video at the end of the day? It was just a Facebook Live. But more importantly, she did what she loved. Are you doing what you love? Are you filled with passion? Doing what you love? They say burnout. There's a quote that says, some say that burnout is doing too much. Okay, I'll say that again. Some say that burnout is doing too much. I say that burnout is doing too little of the thing you love. So my friends, are you doing what you love? Are you meeting your need of significance, certainty, uncertainty, variety, connection, and love, growth and contribution? If you're not meeting those 4 core, you can never go into growth and contribution. And so she's still doing her Facebook Lives. She's changing her life. So back to, I don't know where we're at, but the point is, if we taught this framework, please share this podcast episode with every sister, aunt, neighbor, friend, mother, daughter that you have. Please share this podcast episode. It's called Power Habits on Bring the Mothers Home podcast. Take a screenshot on your phone, right? Post it on social media. Share this. Send the link to your friends and family. They can go to joyanderson.com to get that link. Or, of course, just have them, just text them, say, hey, go download Bring the Mothers Home podcast. This is changing my life right now. If we could help every woman on this earth to meet her needs in a healthy way, can you even imagine what is possible for this world? Can you imagine what is possible for her? How she will impact her family, how she will impact her community when she is finally unlocked, when she's meeting her needs in a healthy way, coping with life in a healthy way. She will be unlocked. She'll be able to fulfill her biggest missions. She'll be able to become the vehicle that God can call her, have her serve others, change this world. What if every man on this earth was meeting their needs in a healthy way? Holy cow, how this world would change. We have the power to change our lives, but I'm telling you, you have the power to help someone else change their life. That's why I'm doing this. So stay tuned. We have more frameworks. That meeting the mentor stage. Oh man, once this framework came to me of what is food, what if food is not just food? It opened the door to everything else. And these downloads came fast and furious. And I've been taking notes upon notes in my phone and my computer, and they are everywhere. And nothing is cohesive in the sense of it is everywhere, but it's all in my head. And I taught it on a 3-day retreat called the Phoenix Journey, and I will continue to keep teaching it to you. So keep coming back. I'm going to keep pouring into you every single day. The last request I have to you, my friends, we just hit number 52 in Apple Podcasts. We hit it yesterday. Holy cow, you did this. Number 52 in Apple Podcasts for education category, self-improvement subcategory. We hit 102 today, up another notch. We hit number 102 today in the category of education. Do you understand how fantastic that is? We are now on the scroll in Apple Podcasts. People can discover our podcast now. But this is because you have helped us. But we have to keep sharing this. There are 5 things I need to ask you to do, please. Number 1, subscribe to the podcast. Go find your podcast in Apple Podcasts, your phone, your iPad, your MacBook. go subscribe to the podcast. It's called Bring the Mothers Home. Number 2, rate the podcast. I hope I've earned your 5 stars. I hope this has helped you. If so, 5-star rating, I appreciate it. Review the podcast. Right below the rating, right below as you scroll down, is the review. Write a review. Share some words about the podcast that have helped you. Number 4, listen to the episodes, please. Apple loves subscribers, ratings, and reviews, but it especially loves the listens. If we don't listen to a podcast, how good is it, right? Keep listening. Every day I'm going to drop a new episode. And finally, number 5, share the podcast. Please, I've already told my family about it. I've told my friends about it. I'm telling everyone about it. I've emailed, I've texted, I've done everything I can to share this podcast. Will you please do the same? I do 1,000% believe that this framework that I have been given, these frameworks that I'm going to continue teaching you, which there are so many more that are so powerful, but it started with this one. And I'll tell you, this is changing my life. And it is changing the women's lives who have listened to these frameworks back at the 3-day retreat called the Phoenix Journey. And they are about 2.5 weeks into their journey right now. Their lives are transforming as well. It can be a ripple effect, but it starts with you. Share the podcast. To do that, go to joyanderson.com. There's a big pink button there. Click on that, and you're going to be able to know how to share the podcast. There's a contest we're running. I've got $50,000 worth of prizes because this is so important on my heart, and I need to get this out to as many women as possible. Just go to joyanderson.com. Big pink button at the top to share our podcast. Again, friends, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for trusting me on your Phoenix journey, and get excited because we've got amazing things coming up. Tomorrow, what we're going to be talking about tomorrow, let me go through my list here. Tomorrow, we're going to reach the stage of committing. Now, there's a couple frameworks that I will be talking to you about before you reach that stage of committing, but it's all these meeting the mentor frameworks that I'll walk you through. The identity slingshot, the Phoenix fuel, the good choices will, staking your progress so that you can, with full confidence, finally hit that commitment stage of crossing the threshold, and you can begin your Phoenix journey. All right. We're coming back for another amazing episode tomorrow. We'll see you soon.